Hey guys, what's up? How you all doing? They call me Novisha Nelson One, your number one celebrity host, and you are watching Voice of the People Television, VOP. Stay tuned.
Uyi Osarite is my name. I am a friend of the microphone, Voice of the People TV. That name is unique, and the brand is very sweet. I like the packaging, picture qualities, camera qualities, and then of course, the quality of human beings that I see sometimes on your channel. I talk and get paid, and I look forward to being in your studios.
Oh yes, you are on to Voice of the People TV, live here in Benin City, the cradle of black civilization. What are you waiting for? Tune in, bro.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy, and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Join Moses, Chukuma, and Fina on Voice of the People TM. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
Well, hello and welcome to News Hour on Voice of the People TV. I am Vivian Oguche.
And I am Nena Ndomdioto. Before we begin, kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. First, the headlines. Senate approves Tinubu'S request to deploy troops to Benin Republic.
Also, mixed reactions trail Nigeria's intervention.
Nigeria Air Force says its 6130 made precautionary landing in Burkina Faso.
ECOWAS declares state of emergency in West Africa.
Senate summons aviation minister over surging airfares.
Fubara Adeleke defect to APC and Accord.
On the foreign scene, children and teens lose access as Australia begins social media ban.
Business news, the federal government reduces signature bonus to $3 million and $7 million.
In sport, Southampton's slash Aribo's price to £1.5 million.
Well, in entertainment news, a producer to remake BC, Daughter of the River. Now in the news in detail. The Senate has expeditiously approved the request by President Bola Tinubu for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin for a peace mission. Thereafter, they resolved into the Committee of the Whole to discuss the urgent request. There was no discussion, as it did not take them 2 minutes to revert to plenary to expeditiously approve the request. President Tinubu had earlier today written to the Senate seeking its consent to deploy troops to Benin Republic for combat operations. The letter was read on Tuesday by the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, during plenary. According to the President, the letter, which was sequel to Section 5, Subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, also became imperative following the need for peacekeeping as a sister country. The President said that deploying the troops was as a result of a request by the Benin Republic for assistance and the close ties of friendship and brotherhood between Nigeria and Benin Republic.
President of the Senate, distinguished Senate President, requests for the consent of the Senate for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin for peace mission. Pursuant to Section 5, subsection 5, part 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I seek further to consultation with the National Defense Council, the consent of the Senate for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin. This request is made further to a request received from the government of Benin Republic for the exceptional and immediate provision of air support by the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The distinguished Senate may wish to note that the government of the Republic of Benin is currently faced with an attempted unconstitutional seizure of power and disruption and destabilization of democratic institutions. The situation, as reported by the government of Benin, requires urgent external intervention.
Mixed reactions are trailing Nigeria's military intervention to quell attempted military coup in neighboring Benin Republic. Here in Lagos, some Nigerians who spoke with our correspondent, Matthew Guswada, says the quick intervention highlights the rising insecurity across Africa.
Tinubu'S has confirmed that he ordered the deployment of fighter jets and ground troops into the Benin Republic to help foil a coup attempt by a group of soldiers who had announced the dissolution of the government on state television. This comes after President Patrice Talon's government issued urgent requests for assistance, including a plea for immediate Nigerian air support. In a statement signed by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the presidency says Nigerian jets were first deployed to secure Benin's airspace and dislodge coup plotters who had taken over the national television station and regrouped at a nearby military camp. This confirmation from Abuja comes after President Talon appeared on national television to announce that loyal forces had repelled the coup attempt, retaking key positions and clearing the last pockets of resistance. Benin's government says 14 suspects have been arrested so far as investigations continue. As Voice of the People TV, we got the opinion of Nigerians, many of whom expressed concern over rising insecurity, not only in Benin Republic, but in Africa.
The fact is that Nigeria is insecure. So what they should do firstly is that they should secure their own land first before saving another country or secure another country. In that coup attempt, what they did as a rescue, also as a soldier, is also okay, but the challenges they are facing, the same challenges we also are facing in Nigeria. To get it done, go back to the drawing board to make sure that Nigeria is on the safer side, because as it is now, Nigeria is not on the safer side in terms of insecurity, banditry everywhere in the country.
The government, the leader of this country, it should rather provide a good security.
As a Nigerian, as a soldier before, insecurity is not being imported. It is caused by somebody. And a group of people know about this, basically, because now the thing has cut across the whole country. But formerly we were talking about the north. But the north now is not secured, neither the west or the south or the south-south. So it is left for the government to checkmate themselves, because insecurity, as far as government of every country, their responsibility is to secure their citizens.
As we've heard from citizens, the swift move against the coup plotters shows why regional security is highly needed. As arrests are being made and investigation ongoing, many Nigerians are calling for stronger security measures to combat insecurity across West Africa and the world. Matthew Ogunsoada, reporting for Voice of the People Television.
Well, in Benin City, the Edo State capital residents, in an interview with Orodejani, questioned the federal government's inability to tackle worsening insecurity in the country.
in Edo State have expressed concern over Nigeria's military involvement in the political crisis in Benin Republic, questioning whether the government has addressed widespread domestic insecurity before engaging abroad. The public highlighted ongoing challenges across the country, including armed robbery, kidnapping, and communal clashes, emphasizing that urgent attention is needed to ensure citizens' safety. Many stressed that domestic security should remain a top priority and called for clear strategies to protect Nigerians before foreign interventions.
The security challenges in Nigeria has overwhelmed the military. We need foreign assistance. We need assistance. We need serious assistance from the American, from the European concerned country, because Nigeria problem is overwhelming. But Nigeria dabbling to Benin Republic issue. The military went there for assistance, just like we equally seeking for assistance.
Nigeria has never done anything, talk less of enough, for the citizen of this country. Talk less of meddling into another territory outside Nigeria. We have many national crises going on. Understand? The bandits, the terrorism, and everything going on.
Nigeria has their own problem. They're supposed to solve their problem before they say they want to go Benin Republic.
We have not even addressed our own problem. I don't think there's anybody who will say is living well as far as this country is concerned. To address that issue now is wrong. It has to look inwards, because it looks as if the whole thing is going round. It has to address its own domestic problem.
Look inward deeply. It should realize that charity always begins at home. You know, it shouldn't allow the country to spoil in its time. You know, it should act as a father that he is. There will be no father that will be, protecting outside and leave his own house and leave his children.
The reactions underscore a growing debate on how Nigeria balances its regional responsibilities with pressing internal security challenges. In Benin, Rhoda Johnny.
And finally, in Oka, Anambra State, residents in an interview with correspondent Ndok Baleze wondered why such response has never been applied to tackle Nigeria's worsening security challenges.
Activists who responded to VOP TV questions expressed a mixture of anger, surprise, and impatience with the leadership of the nation for not exhibiting charity at home first. The respondents wondered if the number of casualties recorded by the hydra-headed insecurity in the country was not worrisome enough to attract equal speed as displayed in Benin intervention.
Well, for one, I'm not surprised. We like to put our noses in something that doesn't really concern us. While our own is dying, they won't go and save someone else's own. It's not commendable for me in any way, because we have to look into our own shoes first. Where is it biting us? We have insecurity in our country. Terrorists are kidnapping people up and down, and we've not yet secured our people, but we are going to secure a dying democracy out there in somewhere on another man's land. I don't think it's commendable. I think the government should try and look inwards first before trying to go outward and do whatever they want to do.
It's quite troubling, because we know our country, the Republic of Nigeria, we're already having security and territorial issues, and then bordering with all the neighboring countries, whom our borders have become so porous. And then our president sending troops down to Benin Republic on the occasion of the coup, which has just happened. Perhaps they might have some other excuses, which is within his purview. But in my own opinion, I think that at this point in time, we have an overwhelming security challenge, which of course, border, which has been caused perhaps by our porous borders, and it is a due and it is a necessary call for Mr. President to deploy all necessary wherewithal to see that he cops the security challenges within the territories of Federal Republic.
So me as a citizen of Nigeria, I'm not proud to see such a thing. I say, wow, so the Nigerian government can really protect us, the citizens, this way. By applying, a lot of things is going on in this country on a daily basis, a lot of insecurity. But most times, even you call the security apparatus, they don't respond immediately. But when it happens, Nigeria supporting, it's good to support our brothers, our neighbors. But when we are facing issues, we should tackle it head on first to prove that we can do it. Charity begins at home. You don't abandon your people who are Nigerians are really suffering. We are really facing a lot of things. So please, I'm not happy about what the action of the federal government
to work on our domestic issues rather than interfering in other countries for now. As a matter of fact, it's because of the insecurity we are having that the American government labeled Nigeria as a country of particular concern. So we should focus on ourselves first. I'm not in support of the government going into Benin Republic to intervene on the coup that was happening there. So that's my own impression.
On the implication of deployment of troops into another sovereign nation, the citizens said President Tinubu's order has justified the United States' planned intervention in Nigeria's insecurity, which is adversely affecting Christians. Ndu Obaleze, VOP TV News.
Undu, thank you. And now the Nigerian Air Force, NAF, has clarified that its C-130 military aircraft reportedly detained in Burkina Faso over an alleged airspace violation made a safe, precautionary landing due to technical concerns. In a statement on Tuesday, Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Himen Jodame, said the aircraft was on a ferry mission to Portugal when the crew detected a technical issue shortly after takeoff from Lagos. According to the NAF, all crew members and passengers are safe and have received cordial treatment from Burkina Faso authorities. The Air Force added that plans are already underway to resume the mission as scheduled.
The Economic Community of West African States has declared a state of emergency across the region following a surge in coups, attempted coups, and escalating insecurity. ECOWAS Commission President Omar Toure announced the decision on Tuesday at the 55th session of the Mediation and Security Council in Abuja. According to him, West Africa now faces an average high-risk security rating, citing recent military interventions in Guinea-Bissau and Benin, stalled political transitions in Guinea, growing electoral exclusion, and expanding reach of terrorist and criminal networks. He also said elections have increasingly become triggers for instability, while geopolitical pressures continue to strain regional cohesion. Toure urged more frequent meetings of the Mediation and Security Council and stressed the need to pool resources to combat terrorism, banditry, and cross-border crime.
Now, the Sokoto state government has praised the Nigerian armed forces for successfully thwarting an attempted ambush by suspected bandits in Sabon Birune local government area. The special advisor to the governor on security matters, retired Colonel Ahmed Usman, explained in a statement that the attackers tried to ambush traders traveling from Tara village to the weekly market in Sabon Birune on Sunday, but were swiftly neutralized by troops deployed to the area. Usman described the military's prompt response as timely and professional, noting that it averted what could have been a tragic incident. He added that the state government appreciates the sacrifices of security forces in the fight against banditry and encouraged them to sustain the momentum.
Meanwhile, the federal government and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have signed a new memorandum of understanding to strengthen defense and military cooperation between the two nations. According to a statement by Special Assistant on Media to the Minister of State's Defense, Ahmed Danwoodi, the agreement will cover strategic collaboration across security, military training, intelligence sharing, defense production, and joint operations for sustainable security development. The pact was signed on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by the Minister of State for Defense, Mohammed Matawale, while Khalid Al-Biari signed for the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It noted that the agreement marks a significant step in boosting bilateral relations, cooperation, and enhancing collaborative efforts in tackling emerging security challenges in the country. Well, let's take you to Anambra State now, where
They marked this year's International Anti-Corruption Day with a significant milestone as state agencies and civil society groups joined forces to take the fight against corruption to the streets and major institutions. Our correspondent Undo Opalese has a detailed report.
December 9 every year is set aside by the United Nations for the commemoration of the fight and intensification of the struggle against all corruptive tendencies. The theme for year 2025 is Uniting with the Youths Against Corruption, Shaping Tomorrow's Integrity. Here in Anambra State, the Anambra State Anti-Corruption Strategy (ANSAX) and the Civil Societies and Media Accountability and Anti-Corruption Network, in collaboration with the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program (ROLAC), embarked on a road work and visitation to key government institutions and motor parks to sensitize people about the ills of corruption in society. Before the work took off from the Alex Ekweme Square, Oka, the state coordinator of ROLAC in Anambra State, Dr. Josephine Ona, captured the essence of the fight.
It weakens our democracy. It fuels inequality. Corruption is so bad. And we have taken a resolve to do what? To say no to corruption.
At the Jeremy Dodge Secretariat Oka, where most of the ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, are domiciled, the CSOs and ANSACs hammered on the need to avoid lateness and absence from work, bribery and corruption, among other manifestations of poor work attitude by the workforce. Same was the message taken to the Federal Secretariat within the vicinity.
If I need to give you tips before you do your work, before you sign that file, before you sign my contracts, that is corruption. Submit your reports to the steering committee through the ANSAC Secretariat. MIE committee, they are here, they are coming to monitor you. They want to know what you have been doing. You've not been performing. It is corruption.
But the idea is that each and every one of us must play our own role. Every one of us from our own corner, we should stop looking at our leaders, saying that the leaders did this or that. How are we performing and behaving where we are in our little corner?
The roadwork, which passed through the Aroma Junction to the new state-owned bus terminal and the Anambra Broadcasting Service, was led by a motorcade with sound systems, flyers, banners, and other handbills given out to motorists and passers-by.
By improving service delivery and only me standing alone. All right? Corruption today. Nigeria is bleeding. Stop corruption today. Nigeria is bleeding.
Ndo Opalese, VOP TV News.
Thank you very much, Ndo, for that. The Senate has summoned the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, and key stakeholders in the sector for an urgent interaction following public outcry over the sudden and steep rise in domestic airfares. Resolution came after Buhari Abdul Fattah raised a motion on the floor of the Senate, warning that the soaring prices pose a serious threat to mobility and could trigger nationwide travel disruption in the coming days. Leading the debate, Senator Buhari noted that Nigerians have been complaining in recent months as the cost of domestic flights continues to escalate. However, Senator Orji Kalu attempted to justify the airline's fare increases by pointing to rising operational cost and the soaring price of spare parts, an explanation that was met with rousing disapproval from several lawmakers. The Senate agreed that Keyamo, airline operators, regulators, and other industry stakeholders must appear before its relevant committees this week to clarify the reasons behind the soaring fares and to chart an immediate path towards stabilizing prices ahead of the holiday season. Airline and online forum tagged Federal Government's Roadmap for Sustainable Air Transport, a transformative plan designed to strengthen aviation safety, security and efficiency across Nigeria and organized by the National Orientation Agency via its X handle. The Aviation Minister had said that the ministry is in touch with relevant agencies to fashion out ways of reducing airfares for air travelers.
Well, away from that story, experts at the National Debt Dialogue in Abuja on Tuesday warned that Nigeria is accumulating liabilities that future generations will inherit without seeing the development that borrowing is supposed to bring. The warning stemmed from a conversation about Nigeria's rising debt profile under the theme National Stakeholder Convention on Debt Sustainability and Climate Finance. The event was hosted by the Center for Inclusive Social Development with support from Henrik Boll-Stefan, the program manager of the Sustainable Nigeria program at Henrik in Kenya, Ofego, told participants that at the end of it all, current debts will be inherited by coming generations. He said debt figures that appear in the news as abstract numbers have real implications, adding that Nigeria's current debt profile stands at 152.4 billion naira. According to him, the question citizens should ask is not only how much was being borrowed, but what was being achieved.
We now move on to politics. Governor Simi Nalayi Fubara of Rivers State has defected to the All Progressive Congress APC from the People's Democratic Party PDP. He announced this at a stakeholders meeting at the Government House in Port Harcourt on Tuesday. His defection came 4 days after the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Martin Amawule, and 17 others dumped the PDP for the APC. The lawmakers had blamed the departure from the PDP on the crisis in the party. The governor's defection adds to the increasing list of defections from the PDP to the ruling All Progressive Congress. Similarly, Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State has officially joined the Accord Party days after leaving the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The governor made an announcement at the Government House in Osogbo in the presence of national and state leaders of his new party. Disclosing that he joined the party on November 6th, he also revealed his intention to seek re-election on the party's platform. According to him, he joined the Accord Party after weeks of consultation and deliberations with stakeholders and opinion leaders.
Well, joining us virtually to analyze these stories is public affairs analyst Chijoke Oji. Chijoke, it's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Sam here. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So the Senate has expeditiously approved the request by President Bola Tinubu for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin for a peace mission. But here is the thing, right? This is happening after the deed has been done. Does this remind you of what happened months ago when the president declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, and it was after that that the Senate or the National Assembly gave its approval? I mean, what do you make of this? Is this a case of the tail wagging the dog?
It exposes not just the weakness within the current administration, where the executives and the legislative arms seem to be at a party. You know, one begins to wonder where the separation of powers now plays its virtual role in the beauty of democracy. Because take away the duty of the legislative to oversee the functions and make laws of ensuring and checkmating the executive arm, then we can say we don't have a democracy. A situation where the Senate president is having breakfast in the villa and comes to the Senate House in the afternoon, and at night is back to the same villa to have dinner. And yet we'll continue to have the same mislaps. We'll say putting the horse before the cart, or just showcasing the inefficiencies. You see, we need to understand the essence of laws. Laws are made for man, yes, but laws are meant to be obeyed when it has all been agreed to be as a collective enshrined laws in our constitutions. And what it simply means that even the president falls in line within the same country laws and cannot arbitrarily act except in very exceptions, which we hope that I know definitely doesn't cover this particular incident. But our legal luminaries, we hope that in the coming days they'll be able to debate or confuse Nigerians the more as to justifying these actions. Because those we claim to be borrowing democracy from, would never act in this manner. They would never act in an arbitrary manner without getting the approval of the buying of the people of Nigeria. Because it is our resources. The human involved are also the human resources of our dear nation. So if we're deploying or making such immediate interventions, there are processes to be followed. But like we're clearly seeing, that when it is the interest of the people at the villa and the cronies in various government houses, they ensure that that priority is never in any way at all, affected, because this is about personal and selfish interest. Nigerians don't need any magician to tell us what is really happening now. By their actions, we can see it clearly written and on the display that what they are after is of their personal gains and ensuring that these same institutions they have built serve them, their families, and their continued lineages, which is why we have continued to see a decline in even the most basic fundamental rights of humanity in our own dear country. And I'm glad that citizens are beginning to speak up. In the past, it used to be, we wouldn't talk about our brother, we wouldn't talk about our sister, but it's affecting everybody now. So the chicken has come home to roost. Nigerians now speaking up is to show their grievances, that while we are trying to stop what others are going through in other nations, our dear home country is boiling up, and in no distant time should be expecting the same thing or even more, because the people cannot be kept perpetually on the continued suffer and die, which is now the plot and which is now being exercised on the fellow Nigerians. Very sad situation, but again, also showing the misalignment and the huge joke or comedy being created and being watched by the rest of the world in today's world. Very shame.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you really think that Nigerians will get to that point where a coup could happen in Nigeria? Actually, looking at all that we are going through, looking at all that Nigerians are going through, do you think it could get to this point, so to the point where something of that nature would happen in this country?
In fact, I foresee that it will happen even sooner than we expect. What is probably being awaited now is who would carry it and how it will be done. Because outside the military, the Nigerian people have lost hope in the current administration and the various policies of turning the entire nation into a one-party state. In a nation of no accountability, abuse of powers, and continued delegation of powers that have absolutely no constitutional backings. Look at how our ministers are frittering away the borrowed funds. Every now and then, if you're not seeing the Minister of Health on the parole touring Europe, he's touring Asia, he's touring America. In the same capacity, you're seeing other ministers trying to outweigh the tour. What we have now is tourism promoters who are not promoting the image of Nigeria, but are actually promoting their own image. It's about how many countries they can tour within a quarter or a month. That's the competition. And all in the disguise that we're trying to bring in investors. To come and invest in what? Is it to invest on a faulty statistics? To invest on insecurity? Or to invest in a falling, dilapidated economy? Or to invest in a situation where in fact, Where do we even place the benchmark for even asking for investors to come? Is it instability on the policies of the government, be it internal policies and external policies? What is the encouraging factor for us to even say that all this so-called, we executed a MOU here, we signed a bilateral agreement? Which bilateral agreement? And in most cases, these individuals forget that we live in an age of nuclear technology, a global village. The days have gone when they would sign so-called bilateral relationship with the office representative of some of these parastatals in other countries and give Nigerians impression that it is a country-to-country bilateral. Never. What has it yielded? With all that Buhari signed on when he was in 8 years in power, what has it translated to? With what Jonathan did for the number of years he was in government, what did it translate to? Now we're having the same continuity of we're signing bilateral this, we're signing this. What has it done? When we have yet to strengthen our dear home country, we're yet to solve our security issues. And let me even tell you the most worrisome, in fact, that will trigger the coup is the hunger. The hunger insecurity will drive people mad because a hungry person is an angry person and they will be brutal. In fact, it will be unstoppable because it is now hunger from all sides. A country that has eliminated middle class, how does it intend to survive? Where will they clamor to? Where are the MSMs? Where are the small, medium, or even the medium-scale investment or industries? All is crumbled. There is no power to power it. There is no fuel to deliver or to improve commerce. There is nothing to produce. The raw materials are all being exported for you to get $1 or $2. And every day we continue to hear this, what's the best word to use in describing this level of heartlessness to Nigerians, especially telling Nigerians that the continued devaluation of the Naira is to their own gain.
Okay, let me come in. Let me come in here. Let's move away. Let's move away from that. We know that. Okay, let's talk about the Nigerian Air Force clarifying that a C-130 military aircraft which was detained has made safe precautionary landing. And we're hearing two sides of this. We see NAF coming to say that there were precautions taken, but we also see the alliance of Sahel states coming to say that they've condemned the invasion of their airspace. What do you make of this? Two different sides to one story.
In fact, I listened to the response from the spokesperson of the Côte d'Ivoire military, and I think, in fact, I have never been more proud as an African. The display of professionalism is the cue for our dear country to learn from. That is a young man we felt he was clueless. Is now becoming the center space and pride of his dear nation. That he was able to, within the twinkle of an eye, detect the violation of their own airspace and ensure they did the needful. Nigerians should be grateful that we're having such, individuals spring from nowhere to becoming a mentor that will not only driving his own nation, but securing his own nation. That is the capability being displayed about protecting your nation. It is also as a reference and comparative point with all these various defenses coming from the Air Force and all the individuals trying to justify, all the complete mess up. They said you had an emergency, you had to land. You were en route to Portugal. Okay, before the departure, you'd expected to have had a flight check. And in the course of the flight check, you would have been able to detect if there were any issues. Let's even assume these things have done. What the Sahel have done to you is to showcase that they are not a country that you can violate their spaces and just get away with it. I'm glad that they are engaging diplomatically to sort out this issue. But it's a lesson to Nigeria to know that while we are busy partying and champagne at boat club on the island, a nation is moving forward. A nation we once looked upon as a nowhere is emerging. And the fact that they're able to secure their airspace, not just the land, we're talking about air. And these individuals were diligently able to secure. In fact, I think it should call for overhaul of our Nigerian air forces because there's a whole lot of lapses. Look at all the continued killings. We've never had the Nigerian Air Force come out to tell us we have impounded this plane because it violated the airspaces or it has been found to be compromising or used for this state-sponsored terrorism. Except it is a justification that the states have been in panic, and that's why our Air Force has been in comatose. Because there's no justification to show this continued non-performance across the military board in all the entire Nigerian territory, where we're continually violated on a daily basis, and yet we have not been able to show something tangible. Well, I'm glad other nations are now leading the space. We hope that Nigeria will learn from this and will take a cue, especially in the handling of the diplomatic arrangements to get the people back to continuing their journey. And we do hope that we would also make heads to create a better relationships, because we will be stronger by collaborating. In the areas we feel we know it, they've just shown us that we lacked a lot. And I'm hoping that Nigeria will take a cue and learn from this and collaborate for stronger efforts and policing of our territories, especially our airspaces.
All right.
Because continuously, it's a disgrace that our dear nation is being violated and there's no accountability.
Chijoke, I think that's a safe place for us to leave that particular one. But let's quickly talk about this other story, right? The Economic Community of West African States has declared a state of emergency across the region following a surge in coups, attempted coups, and escalating insecurity. But there is chatter on and offline that ECOWAS is becoming elitist, actually protecting the presidents in power, rather than trying to solve the root cause of this unrest in the region, in the West African region. Do you agree?
I totally agree. You see, we need to realize something. What was obtainable 10, 15, 20 years ago can no longer continue to be the same today. People are growing in population. The economy is biting harder because of the continued grip, of the Western nations having accesses unlimitedly to all the natural resources that the African, especially the West African sub-regions, are yet to harness and take greater advantages into converting these things to finished goods for the services and providing and solving the needs of the people. So, of course, the continued growth in population and the mess up in the economy will definitely not continue to give the same gods in power the protection they have enjoyed over the years. Look at what's happening in Cameroon. Definitely, it's only a matter of time. It will definitely, blow, because while Cameroon and Gabon are having the same similar thing, it's no different from other West African states, where some presidents who have been non-performing over the years have continued to look for ways to increase their stays, especially those who are now clamoring and have gotten third term, even fourth term, are even trying to become perpetual presidents. It is very unfortunate. And we ask ourselves, especially those who no longer have the capacity to lead their people, are you leading your nation to the grave? Because, there are certain things that requires energy and strength, requires the brain work to be able to articulatively do the needful as being on the wheels and the commander-in-chief of a country. It requires more than just being an individual who can move from one place to another. In fact, in most cases, these individuals have lost the strength to move about. So how do they now know the territories they govern, other than wanting to be in power perpetually? Yes, ECOWAS declaring a state of emergency should not end there. It should go beyond the state of emergency. But looking at how do they address these lingering issues? And what's the lingering issues? The economy is being battered, and the people are growing in population.
All right.
Everything is going into comatose. And except you liberate the people through the economy,
okay,
you continue to have these issues. We just pray it doesn't become a continued bloody coup.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for your always intelligent analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, let's move on. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has recorded 2,685,725 completed registrations under the continuous voter registration exercise as of December 5, 2025. Figures released for week 14 show that 1,576,137 registrations were concluded through the online pre-registration portal, while 1,109,508 were completed at physical registration centers nationwide. Online pre-registration therefore accounts for about 59% of all completed entries, with physical centers contributing the remaining 41%.
Well, turning to other stories, the Nigerian Immigration Service has announced the activation of temporary complaint response channels on social media following the takedown of its support accounts. In a Tuesday public service announcement shared on X, NIS said the new channels were created to ensure uninterrupted engagement with applicants experiencing difficulties with passport and visa processes. According to the notice, affected applicants can now channel their complaints through the temporary X handles at inquire@Niger, at NIG Immigration, and at inquire@Niger_, as well as via Instagram. It said complaints may also be sent by email to nisresponse@immigration.gov.ng. NIS advised applicants to include relevant details when submitting complaints, including their name, application number, reference number, mode of application, passport number, location, and email address.
The federal government is scaling up coordinated efforts to drastically reduce maternal, newborn, and child mortality. The executive director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Muyi Aino, who stated this on Tuesday during a quarterly media briefing in Abuja, noted that a renewed push aligns with President Bola Tinubu's directive to prioritize investment in maternal and child health. 2025 Nigeria Health Statistics Report, released by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, revealed that Nigeria recorded an estimated 20,811 maternal, neonatal, and under 5 deaths between January and September 2025. Responding to concerns about the country's maternal and child mortality statistics, Aino acknowledged that the numbers remain unacceptably high, but stressed that administration is committed to reversing the trend.
Well, on the foreign scene, effective from Wednesday, December 10, users aged under 16 will lose access to the social media accounts as Australia begins a world-first ban for the underaged. Consequently, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, YouTube, Snapchat, Reddit, Kick, Switch, and TikTok are expected to have taken steps from Wednesday to remove accounts held by users under 16 years in Australia and prevent them from registering new accounts. Platforms that do not comply risk fines of up to $49.5 million. According to the E-Safety Commissioner, Julie Grant, all listed platforms apart from X had confirmed by Tuesday to comply with the ban. Children had spent the past few weeks undertaking age assurance checks, swapping phone numbers, and preparing for their accounts to be deactivated.
We now move on to business, where the federal government has reduced the signature bonus to between a minimum of $3 million to a maximum of $7 million in the 2025 bid round, as against the $10 million per block charged in the 2024 oil block bid round. This is in an indication of 70% and 30% of crash, according to the facts on the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission 2025 licensing round. According to the document, which was released virtually, the Minister of Petroleum Resources has approved the new signature bonus in order to reduce entry barriers.
Well, in sports news, Southampton are prepared to offload Super Eagles midfielder Joe Aribo for as little as £1.5 million in the January transfer window, with Turkish Super League clubs ready to move in as his future at St. Mary's nears an end. Aribo has endured a difficult spell in the last 5 months, slipping to the fringes of the squad and struggling to convince Will Still and Thunder Eckert, the managers he has worked under this season. Following Southampton's relegation from the Premier League, the 29-year-old was expected to depart, especially with 1 year left on his contract, but he failed to secure a move in spite of interest from several clubs. Aribo's situation has deteriorated further this season, as he did not feature until game week 13 and has made only 6 appearances in total, amassing 114 minutes without a start. More so, he has not played over 30 minutes in any match and has registered no goal contributions or significant attacking output. With his contract set to expire in the summer, Southampton are willing to accept a reduced fee.
We now move on to the foreign scene, where we now move on to entertainment. One of the most successful and significant early Nigerian films, BC, Daughter of the River, may soon hit the movie stands from a contemporary perspective. The film represents the golden age of Nigerian cinema in the 1970s, when filmmakers began to produce films on celluloid for Nigerian audiences. Its success also helped to pave the way for future filmmakers and fostered a sense of possibility for homegrown Nigerian movies long before the video-based boom of the 1990s. Due to its significance in helping to lay the foundations for modern Nollywood, the film's producer, through his lawyer, Roxanne Igelige, has sought copyright clearance for its remake from a contemporary perspective. In a notice, he requested information that could assist in establishing contact with the estate of the producer of the 1977 film, Ladi Ladebo.
Well, that wraps it up for us on News Hour. Thank you so much for watching. I am Vivian Oguche.
And I am Nenna Ndomdioto. Thank you.
Behind every broken desk lies a broken promise. Education shapes the nations. But who is asking the right questions? Introducing Edu Dialogue, the show that goes beyond the surface, exposes the cracks, the corruption, and the silence in Nigeria's education system. Edu Dialogue, Saturdays, 3 p.m., only on VOP TV. We break the biggest stories, from missing funds to policy failures. We ask the tough questions and demand real answers. Edu Dialogue, this Saturday, 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television.
you want your voice to be heard? Do you know that you matter in the scheme of things? The People's Voice, the show where ordinary citizens take center stage as we discuss the biggest stories that affect you and I. With you in mind, we facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I, from social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more, tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The People's Voice. Make your voice count.
Are you ready for the extraordinary? Something big is happening on your screen. Introducing VOP TV. Now streaming on SLTV channel 264. From breaking news to captivating conversations, news analysis, giving you all sides to the story. We bring in-depth discussions on the issues that matter, from politics to sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. VOP TV on SLTV channel 264. Join us as we redefine what television means to you. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.